Okay, I'm really honored to be here and show you my work tonight, and I hope you'll find it entertaining. This is the first piece that I'd like to show you. It's entitled Sea Pods. It's 24 inches by 24 inches. I want to start with this one because it represents what I'm trying to accomplish in my work today. I like to create my own worlds and populate them with my own creatures. I'm especially interested in underwater worlds and the world of insects and small creatures. Here's something someone wrote about me recently that I thought was pretty cool. Connett is an artist who takes his current inspiration from biological forms, both flora and fauna, micro and macro, land and ocean dwelling, from which he generates new variations as though he were painting with DNA. I like that. I've been creating art since I was a kid, of course, but I've only been painting seriously for about 10 years. That is to say, for 10 years I've done nothing else, no other job, no other occupation. I've tried to paint every day, as many hours as I possibly can, to increase my expertise. It's my number one focus. The story about my art is a story about me, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in San Francisco in 1951. I was raised in the city. I went through the public school system, but I only made it through the 12th grade. I never liked school. I was always in trouble, and the only subject that I ever liked was art. By the age of 17, I was an incorrigible high school dropout. The only thing I liked to do was drink beer, smoke pot, and draw pictures.
Yeah!
My parents did everything they could to put me on a better path. However, a 17-year-old kid always knows best. And, I didn't want any of it. So I just went ahead with that for as long as I get away with it. Through my drawing, I was able to express myself. And my teachers, my kids, my friends, that was the only thing I did that people really liked. So, that was it for me. But I really hated school, so I just dropped out. Sadly, by the age of 18, I got into kind of a serious drug habit problem, and that really messed me up. Eventually, my father helped me get a job out of the city in Reno as a busboy. And it was there, being alone for a while, that my instinct for self-preservation kicked in, and I managed to get out of that drinking and drug thing. I lived alone in Reno, and I kept to myself, and my primary amusement was drawing, painting a little bit, and fishing, because I've always loved fish. This relationship with my art has endured for the rest of my life, and I think it's become a more constructive addiction. But during all those years, I never once dreamt that I could actually be an artist. For the remainder of my teens and early 20s, I drifted from one crappy job to another, always living alone. Until 1974, at the age of 23, I took a job with my father, who owned a small insurance business in San Francisco. He took me in as a file clerk, which was a lot better than selling hamburgers, which is what I was doing at a place called Flings. And I took advantage of that opportunity. Little did I know that I would be there for the next 20 years. I went from file clerk to receptionist to salesman, and eventually bought the business from my father. And all during that 20 years, I lived alone and did art as a hobby. This painting is one from those times, 1980. I was now 29 years old. This one is called Bloodfish, and I did this with watercolor. I was using an airbrush. I picked up an airbrush somehow and was playing around with that. I've always loved fish, and I've always loved to fish and fishing. I have fish tanks, and I have fish ponds now. So a lot of the subject matter you'll see concerns fish. My father used to take me fishing when I was a kid, and this extreme fascination I have for underwater stuff evolved from that. This one is called Skeleton Fish, 17 by 22. This is also 1980, one of the oldest things I have. It shows my fascination for fish. It also has something to do with my mother, because she had this pair of silver earrings that were dangling fish skeletons. So, I was thinking about that. This painting is about fish and about my mom and about death. So all subjects I'm fascinated by. Fast forward to 1988, I'm 27, and doing stuff like this. Now, this, I'm not 27, I'm 37. Excuse me. This is called Stray Thoughts, and the significant thing about this painting is that it was chosen as an album cover by Les Claypool of Primus. He had a band then called Sausage, which was a short-lived reunion of the original Sausage lineup. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, Mitzi, hi, introduced my art through the band Metallica, and she was doing a music video for Metallica at the time, and so she would go around carrying my artwork and showed this to them, and that's how I wound up with that. And you know, Interscope Records paid me handsomely for that, and even more than money though, it was a shot in the arm of artistic self-esteem that I had never had. You know, it was really a turning point for me because I had found acknowledgement for my art in an important objective outside source. And seeing my image, this one, blown up on a billboard, the huge size of Tower Records, was really incredible for me. So finally, I began to feel that, hey, maybe I could become an artist. So I'm going to go now, 1994. I'm still selling insurance, but I'm 43 years old. After selling the rights to Stray Thoughts, the idea of leaving the insurance business becoming an artist grew and grew in me to a torturous extent. Torturous because I began to really hate my job. I was getting older and my life no longer seemed limitless. Every moment I spent selling and explaining insurance policies was time I was wasting, and those thoughts tortured me. I don't know if I can or should blame these so-called tortured thoughts or simply my discontent or unhappiness. However, no matter, I began to get into binge drinking and drugs again, and this was my first acrylic painting, by the way. I went from watercolor to acrylic. This was the first one, and it sort of showed where things were at for me at that time. It all came to a head on July 4th, 1995, when my home of 20 years burned to the ground. I've always been a collector, and my home was filled not only with my own art supplies and easels and so forth, but also all kinds of things that I had collected over a 20-year period. I had masks, puppets, skulls, skeletons, and a great insect collection because I've been collecting insects since I was a kid. And anyway, all that went up in flames, and you know, as you can imagine, that was pretty dramatic. I escaped without injury. However, I really walked out of that fire with literally nothing. No clothes, no shoes, no wallet, not even a toothbrush. Fortunately, my wife, then my girlfriend, came to my rescue and gave me a little place to live. After the fire, I went into a very deep depression that lasted for 3 years. I didn't do any art at all during that period. Didn't do much of anything. Finally, though, I started coming out of that funk, no small thanks to my wife. She stuck with me through thick and thin and helped me to come out of this and regain myself. Always there with encouragement and a kick in the ass when needed. In 1998, Mitzi found us a beautiful small rental house in the hills overlooking Los Angeles. And we moved from San Francisco to LA that year, and we were also married. In 97, by the way, I had sold that insurance business, so I was finally done with that. In 1998, I took a job at a film studio as a manager down here in Los Angeles. The pay was great and helped us get started in our new home. In the year 2000, I began to draw again. This is one of the first drawings I did when I came out of that funky period. It's called Idiot Collection. Another one, very similar, I call this Dorcahedron. About this time, I realized it was inevitable that I should quit intoxicating substances, so I did. And I managed to keep that status until this moment. There's another, that's a ballpoint pen drawing. That's the only one we have from that period. We have it because I gave it to my wife as a gift. I called it Still Death. another from that period, pen and ink, called Six Secrets. This is the first painting I did in 5 years, another acrylic piece. I call this The Obligationist. Again, no color, but this is me coming back to myself in the year 2000. And it made me want to branch off into color. 2000 through 2002, as I mentioned, I had taken this job as a manager at this film studio, and it was a great paying job, and I was really lucky to have it, and it really helped us out. But you know what? I was having those stray thoughts again, that I was wasting my precious time. So fortunately, I lost that job. I lost that job and thus had no choice other than to make money any way I could. I started selling drawings on eBay, and pleasantly surprised that I found that I could sell these drawings. So I just drew everywhere I was, watching television, in the bathroom, whatever. I was drawing and throwing these things up on eBay and selling every one of them, and trying to paint too. I then seriously struck out to teach myself how to paint. You know, it's so much different when you do something every day, all the time. I really started to develop, but I was very unfamiliar with color. This is one of the first color experiments I did in 2004. It's pretty crude, but for me, it was really a step forward because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I loved doing it. And during that period, I was doing anything I could. I was taking little things and painting them like this and selling them on eBay and, you know, just trying to make money. Let's see. Yeah, there's another example of one of the first things I started to do. Again, you have the fish and all that kind of stuff. I was extremely happy to wake up every day and do the thing that I love the most, create art. Every day was a new learning experience, and I was amazed at how much better I became. This one was Alien Sea Creatures 2003. Then I experimented here a little more, like a little collage in there, a little paint. Again, you know, I'm practicing. I'm being paid to practice and teach myself how to paint. This one, getting a little bit better. As you can probably see, a little better with the character development and, you know, getting in touch with the color itself. Same here, called that one Lithium Fields. It's not possible to say exactly when I painted this because I hadn't yet developed my good studio habits. It's another one from late 2004. This one's called Planktonauts. During these experimental years of me painting and selling my works on eBay, I was making some money, but you know, not a lot. My wife continued to work in the fashion industry. She was a professional makeup artist and made really good money. The truth is, she made most of the money, and you know, I was like, she was the breadwinner, I was the kept man. So, and I was really happy about that. One day, unfortunately, one day she found a suspicious lump in her breast and went to the doctor. We went together. And she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer immediately, and that changed everything very abruptly for us. The next years for her were grueling, terrifying. She underwent chemotherapy, and unfortunately in her line of business, celebrity makeup design, if you're not there, you're nowhere. And many of her celebrity clients kind of forgot her right away. And it was a terrible time for my wife and frightening for both of us because, you know, in the back of our minds we're thinking, hey, she could die. We never talked about it much, but, you know, we knew it. Well, I'm happy to say she didn't die. She's right there. She got through it and was really tough and really positive, and I'm also happy to say that it's been almost 10 years and she's had no reoccurrence. So as far as the actuary tables are concerned, she's cured. I know we both appreciate life and death more than we did before. Her income went way down, and I could no longer coast on my own speed. I had to pick it up a notch and make as much money as I possibly could, as quickly as I could. That's when I started pulling out stopwatches, timing what I was doing, and trying to up my game. This one's called Serotonin C from 2005. Each piece I did, like I said, was a learning experience. This one, Serotonin C, I believe this one is. Again, progressing. Let's see, come on. There we go. Now this one was sort of a breakthrough piece for me because I really think that This was the first time that I had really gotten in touch with what I wanted to put on the canvas. I really liked the balance and the composition, and I really liked the creatures that I was starting to come up with. You know, before this, I had these things in my head, but I couldn't really get them out there. This next piece is significant because this was the first commission I took. This is called Thought Wars. It's 30 by 30 inches, and you know, my eBay customers were saying, hey, why don't you do a commission, et cetera, and so I said, hey, yeah, let's do that. To define commission, my work, somebody else's idea. I found that within reason, however, it did not bother me to work with other people's ideas, trying to interpret their ideas as best I could while still keeping the painting my own creation. It was a good discipline. These commissions helped us keep afloat. Here's another one. It's called Harvest of the Dreamers, 20 by 20 inches, 2006. At that time, I also bought a large format printer, put it in my office, my studio, an Epson 7800, which is capable of printing 24 inches by infinity, so now I'm in the print business, and it actually turned out very, very well for me. This is another breakthrough piece for me. Again, I really liked, I call this red microbia. It's 20 by 20 inches. I feel I really captured some special stuff in this thing, in this painting. And it was very popular as a print too. I still sell this print all the time. You know, I'm still selling prints now. I still do originals and prints, though I'm trying to tone down the print business. Mitzi was undergoing chemotherapy through that year, and in spite of this, she worked a lot. She was exhausted, but still dragged herself to work whenever she could, wearing a wig because all her hair was gone. Real trooper, my wife. Often I wanted to tell her not to, and I did tell her not to, but, you know, I believe that her working during this period helped her get well. Since she could go to work, she did. She's tough, and because she did, we stayed afloat. This is a typical piece that I did as a commission. It's called Comedy and Tragedy. The guy wanted a comedy and tragedy mask somewhere in the painting and things around it. It's something I would never have ordinarily done, but you know, I learned a lot from doing it. Here I went to one called Tipping Point, and it is a kind of a tipping point because it's a commission where the guy wanted something science fiction-y, and I was able to do it very quickly because I cut way down on the colors, and he was very happy with it, and I was happy because it got out real quick. This is the same kind of thing, and here you're seeing where I'm able to really start to get into the complicated stuff that I love to play with in my work. The cities, I love those cities, and I love the, you know, sort of skeletal looking debris at the bottom and the thing that constructs him, and he's the oracle, so he's showing you up there a picture of a dinosaur watching the comet come to Earth to create the, you know, the great extinction. Anyway, that's what I thought. This one's called War Machine. Same kind of thing. I love to make these complicated looking paintings. It kind of looks like his hand might work and his arm. A little science fiction-y, really, but people were asking me to do that kind of stuff, and I enjoyed it very much. Here's another one, another commission. Again, kind of science fiction-y, but it's a lot like that second slide I showed you, which was Bloodfish. You know, you've got the fish chasing another fish, but this time the hot engine and all that. I really enjoyed doing that and learned a lot. Again, same thing. I really like the city. I love constructing those little cities, you know. This one is called Machine Form, very small piece. This next one is different. It's called Spinal Totem Tattoo. It's actually, this is a commission I did for a fellow who wanted me to do a tattoo design that would stretch from his lower spine up to the nape of his neck. Wow. I wanted, you know, I did some very careful measurements of his back, and I painted this to scale so that he could get his tattoo artist to do it. Unfortunately, he never found a tattoo artist that would take it on because of the detail, too much detail, I guess. I'm still hopeful that somebody might do that. We'll see. God's Half Brother. 12 by 16, 2008. This is around when the financial bubble burst, so things got a little harder for us, but, you know, we hung in there. She was on the mend, my wife, and we held on. And even without money, I was extremely happy because I got to do what I wanted every day, which was for the first time in my life, you know. I never liked that insurance business. I was always miserable. Epitaph. This is another commission that I took on, and significantly it was the first repeat commission I had from anyone. I enjoyed creating this very much, and you know, like the smokestacks and the skulls and all that. Even the skull in the eye there, stolen from one of my favorite artists, M.C. Escher. I don't know if you can see it, but it's in there. Same guy who commissioned this, Crucifixion, 2008, 14 by 18. Again, I loved what I was doing, but kind of ran out of room there at the top with the tree. I would like to have done more with that tree. Anyway. Then, you know, at this time I was still doing lots of paintings that I would do as quick as I could, sell them on eBay, trying to make money. This one is called The Spy and the City, The Spy in the Dark City, 8 by 10 inches, but this one sold for a lot of money. They got into a bidding war on eBay, which is really good for the seller. I don't know if you know anything about eBay, but anyway, it got into a big bidding war, and I got about 10 times more than I thought I would get for it. And the guy who lost it commissioned me to do it again. So I did it again, and you know, I like the first one better. Honestly, it's more, you know. Anyway, so here's something along the same lines. Dreaming by the City of Glass. All the things I love to put into these paintings: fish, fishing, the water, be asleep in a boat on the water with a fishing pole. That's me. You know, another one, Dreamscape, which includes all of my factors that I love to do: the bubble city, the fish, the fishing. There's my poor wife there up the top with her chemo treatment. She does not really have a mechanical peg leg. I just put that in there for fun. The white bird there on the end of her fishing pole, that sort of, you know, crazily in my mind sort of represented her soul barely hanging on, which is kind of where her head was at there. Anyway, this is called Little Bang Theory, just to show you that I go off into all kinds of little tangent directions. This one, back to my watery worlds, is called Spirochete. It's a very small painting, 5 by 7 inches. I've always loved that word, and then after I painted I realized that spirochete is a bacteria that causes syphilis. And it has nothing to do whatsoever with the painting, but I'd like to name. Anyway, this one is a significant piece, Night Trawler. It's a breakthrough painting for me, I felt, because this painting, it means a great deal to me personally. It's a breakthrough painting for me because it contains so many characters that come from my heart and my imagination. Also because it's a vision of my childhood that is carried through to my adulthood. It's an interpretation of the place where my father and I used to go fishing back in the ocean in the 50s. And I'm going to read to you what I wrote about this when I finished the painting. The Night Trawler is a boat of my dreams. I would love to live on this boat, to glide from place to place on still and rough waters. Inside this boat is everything I've ever wanted. In my imagination, I am this boat. It is my sanctuary, my retreat, my hideaway. No one can touch me here. I want to walk into this picture and disappear. I want to leave the trials of men behind and become part of my painted world. This is a more interesting and mysterious world where fish rise up above the water to stare at men, where fish can fly like birds and translucent creatures swim across the starry sky night, shimmering in moonlight. Many years ago, when I was a young boy, my father would take me before dawn to go fishing in the ocean. We would drive through the foggy San Francisco streets to Muni Pier, buy bait wrapped in yesterday's newspaper, then drive across the Golden Gate Bridge to Sausalito. There my father had moored a 26-foot inboard with a cabin. To my eyes, it was a ship. At the first fall storm light began to color the world, we would board with our gear, trembling with the morning chill, breathing out hot steam into the cold. We'd start the engine. The smell of exhaust, gasoline, bait, and salt water is a heavenly memory. Past a fearful patch of rough water lay the beautiful dark blue waters off the coast of Marin County. We would skirt the shore, find a still cove, and drop anchor. These coves were always surrounded by high cliffs and wild trees overhanging the edges. The cliffs were natural windbreaks. The water was blue-black in its depth and still as a mirror. The smell there was pine forest mixed with salt water, morning sun, exhaust fumes, and rotten fish. When I die, if I smell this, I will know there is a heaven after all. This is what's under the water in the cove. This one is called crustacea pods, 24 by 24 inches, 2008. These are the creatures underneath the nitrile. This painting has become seminal for me. This is exactly the kind of work I would like to be doing. And most of my current work, current work reflects this. This was a rare painting where I unquestionably captured everything I wanted in an almost perfectly balanced composition. Of course, I took a lot of tangents still. I was happy to do this, but then I did other things as well. This one, a smaller piece, 10 by 10 inches, is called AFS-001, stands for Alternative Fuel Source. 10 by 10 inches, 2008. The significant thing about this painting, it was the first time I used glazes. Up to this painting, it didn't occur to me to use glazes or any of these gels that are available. I was just using water to try to achieve transparencies. But once I got my hands on glazes, I never went back. Before that, I was just using the paints right out of the tube. So, moving on, art had become my job, and we depended upon the money I could bring in. And that added a new dimension of pressure in my life. I won't say that it didn't take away some of the fun, because it did. However, I was still doing what I loved, and I could still get into that zone where nothing else exists around me. That zone that I think a lot of artists talk about is that place where you're just deep into your world of creating. You know, the art of creation is a mesmerizing, kind of spine-tingling sensation where time sort of stops. That is what I live for, to get into that place where everything else disappears. And if I work long enough, no matter what my mood, I can get to that place through careful concentration. Still doing commissions in 2008. This one is called Don Quixote Finds His Chimera. That was the title that my commissioner came up with. I loved doing that. Big squid down there in the water and everything. Kind of a weird name, a weird idea, but it's kind of cool. I liked it. This was the first year that I began to exhibit my works in galleries. And this was one of, that one I showed you, Alternative Fuel Source, that was 10 by 10, with this one and a couple others that I don't have here. I'm only showing you a very small percentage of all the paintings I did. I was knocking these paintings out like crazy. And I took these in, I had my first show, this little gallery up in New York, and I managed to sell them, which was incredible for me. First time I had sold anything in a gallery. And so, I was stoked. This one I repainted later and also sold in a gallery. That's a larger version of this one here, as you can plainly see. Sold that in the same gallery 2 years later. It's called Capitulation. This one, I'm an insect collector. I think I mentioned that. I've been an insect collector since I was a kid. I used to catch them myself, but I don't do much of that anymore. But I do have a collection that's quite large now, and I'm very fascinated. I originally subtitled this painting Underworld, and I'll read to you what I wrote. Underworld refers to the many tiny worlds that exist all around us and even upon and within us. I am interested in the flora and fauna that live in these tiny worlds under our normal field of vision. The things that one must hunt for in the grass, in the pools of water, or even with a microscope. The small worlds of life that exist in abundance but which we normally ignore. Memento Mori, which is another commission I did. That means something like remember you will die. You probably all know that. Flora versus Fauna, one of my personal favorites. This is where I first used cobra lilies, also known as pitcher plants. I love the form of those plants. You know, I also love the synergy and the concept of flora versus fauna, which is really kind of what's happening out there. I guess they work together. At any rate, I've used these plants often since then. Don't know what it is that I like so much about them. There they are again in another one called, this is also 2009. This one here, come on, is called Mantis Pond, which is also with the cobra lilies, insects, and pond. I love ponds. Underneath the pond, you'll find creatures like this. This one's called zooids. These little plants here, they have the little animals living inside them. I've used that before. I envision them popping out, grabbing, little things to eat. The micronaut. Now we're in 2009, 24 by 24 inches. I was able to create some interesting stuff here. I especially like that jellyfish down there in the lower left corner. Sorry, that pointer was cool. Anyway, I'm starting to develop sort of a library of imagery now. I'm starting to use my images again in other paintings, and really enjoying that. Dreams and Nightmares, another commission, off a little bit from what I was doing, but still very much what I'm into. We have a copy of this, a print in our bedroom, and I like to watch it as I drift off to sleep. I've sold all these originals. I really don't have any originals other than the one, if you get a chance, there's one original in there, and I have 3 at CoPro Gallery that are not sold yet, but that's all I have left. I've been really lucky to sell all my work. In 2010, I met Monte Bouchamp, who you may know is a gentleman who created Blab magazine. He liked my work and asked me to do something for some of his upcoming Blab projects. This one's the first thing I did for him. This is called Antagony. It's quite large, 24 by 48. Actually, 2 canvases next to each other, 24 by 24. This is the first thing I did with Blab in mind. The title Antagony, of course, comes from antagonism, defined as active hostility, which I hope I was able to capture. Here's the the left side, a little closer, and the right side of this piece. Here's another piece I did for Blab, called Hades. This is for the Heaven and Hell issue. This is very cartoonish, and a lot of my stuff is, because that's what I was brought up on. Comic books, cartoons. I was into DC and Marvel. It's how I learned to draw human figures and so forth. I haven't been to any kind of school. Like I said, I'm a high school dropout. But I learned from comic books how to draw. And Metaverse, another commission. This is one I do like. Farm a Garden. I did this as a commission for a pharmaceutical executive. He wanted me to put some of his wares in there, so he got it, and he likes it. He's delighted. He says he hangs it in his office. I would love to see that. Creatures of a Luminescent Ocean is another commission that I did for a gallery owner in New York City. And he just told me to do whatever I like to do, which was wonderful. He did hint that he likes my sea creatures, which is great, because me too. Anyway, here's a repainting of Nitral, the original. This is a bigger one, 30 by 40 inches, that I did in 2011. Same painting, but, very different in a lot of ways. At this point, I stopped selling originals on eBay and tried to just go with galleries, and I'm still trying to do that. I stopped selling originals on eBay, but I kept selling my prints. And I'm still selling prints on eBay, but mostly in my own store now. I open the store, website, and all that, and it's a lot easier to do it that way. And, but the truth is, I'm also trying to cut down on my prints so that I can just dedicate my work, myself to new paintings. That's what I really want to do. So now we're getting closer to what I really want to do here. This is called Planktonauts number 2. I'm pulling out ideas that I've developed before. Again, my visual vocabulary, so to speak, is becoming better and better as I go on. This is Planktonauts number 3. Again, I'm able to go with the creatures that I love, and I got a million of them. This is another piece that I did for Blab, Monty Beauchamp. This is for Blab World number 3, the Dream issue. This one is called Somnambulance, which is derivative from somnambulant, which is a sleepwalker. Idiot Gods, this is more or less a small precursor to some of the paintings that I have here coming up. Again, as I said, I'm an insect collector. I love to get some of my specimens in there. This one, sometimes I like to paint. I like paintings to bring forth ideas using the title and the imagery together. This one is called Feast of the Have-Nots. So, there you go. And by the way, this painting was destroyed by the United States Postal Service in transit to a gallery show, and it's gone. This one, same kind of thing, Lepidoptera, which of course is a category of insects, including butterflies and moths. This painting was sold at Copro Gallery. Hey. Resurrection, a larger painting, 24 by 36, commission that I did, very much like you can see the similarities in these pieces. At this point, 2013, I received a beautiful, wonderful commission from my biggest commissioner who lives in Europe. He's commissioned me to do a 4 by 6 foot painting of a garden, a water garden filled with all the creatures that you've seen, and I'm going to pull out the stops, and I may take a year with this thing. I'm going to take my time with it, and it'll be hopefully my masterpiece thus far in my career. I've already put 350 hours into it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to show it to you because it's hardly begun. This is one called Macrodons. This is one that's still left up there at Copro Gallery. You might see there's those plants again with the little creatures inside them, the squid plants, that I really like, together with everything else. Again, this one also, symbionts, as in symbiosis. And here I've experimented with some light backgrounds again. We're in 213, coming to the end. 20 by 20 inches. This one was also sold by Copro. And this one, another experiment with light background called Nero Chaos, also sold by Copro Gallery. Microverse, my first painting of 2014. Again, I'm pulling out, stuff out of my hat, and this one was also sold at Copro Gallery, as was this one, called Star Creatures. I think the most interesting thing about this painting is that mask-like head of the creature in the center, which is something that, it's almost like an oriental mask or something that I really want to do some more experimentation with. This is the painting that's in there. If you want to see the original, it's called Jellies, something that I've completed recently. And I'm going to go back to the beginning. Sea pods finally end up here because, again, I think this is a great example of what I'm trying to do. So, thank you.